Legend of Korra Season 3, Episodes 4 and 5, titled In Harm's Way and Metal Clan. Now, it was really cool to get two episodes, and I'm pretty sure they did this because these two episodes were the last two that were actually aired online. It was, I believe, three, four, I think it was three, four, five, and six. So they said at the end of episode five, I thought it was really funny. It was like, watch these where you can't see them online or anywhere else, but here I thought that was really funny because they obviously uh, they took notice of the fact that the episodes leaked online, so it was really funny how they did that. But I do think episode six was leaked online as well. But either way, these were two good episodes. I wasn't expecting two, so more Avatar is always great in my opinion. But these were two really good episodes, very different episodes. They had their focuses. Episode four kind of takes place. It was episode four was kind of the second part to episode three, really, because they were still in the Earth Kingdom. They were finding out more about the Airbenders. They found out where they were. We got to see more stuff going on with them. We got some really cool action scenes outside of the Earth Kingdom when all the members were going to get the final woman for the team. That was a great scene. We got to see a dragon actually shoot fire at someone. Unfortunately, that was like the only thing the dragon did before the girl took it down. I guess Sparky Sparky Boom Girl, and she took it down. We get a little bit of personality out of her because when she was rescued by the waterbender, she was like, we could have just taken the elevator, and she was like, show off, and I thought that was kind of funny. And they had their tiny, that was like one of the tiny moments. The other was when her and her boyfriend were kissing, and the guy who was driving was like, really now? I thought that was funny too. But other than that, they just had like completely serious moments. But it was definitely cool. We got to see more Zuko. We got to see the twins fight, and they were taken down by this one waterbender. I love seeing her once again. I think I'm gonna love seeing her fight all the time because it's so unique to have a waterbender who has no arms. She has no arms, so she uses water as her arms, and it just looked really cool. And she was swinging through the ice and stuff, so that was really cool. It's kind of like she wouldn't. It would be really the same if she had actual arms and she used the water, but it just makes it look cooler because she couldn't do that. Like she couldn't just like go through some monkey bars. She doesn't have arms. But it was cool to see her do that, and she took out the twins, and when she jumped off the ice and then froze them in two other blocks of ice, I thought that looked really great. Um, Korra's dad, I believe, Tarak. I can't think of his name, but him finding the leader was pretty cool. I like their interaction, them kind of talking about how he was the one who put the leader away. I thought that was pretty cool. But ultimately, they all lost, and the villains got away. But episode three was definitely cool. We also got to see Lake Lao Guy. That was one of my favorite parts because they brought it up, and it was just like they're just kicking it old school. It's just like Lake Lao Guy was the first thing they mentioned as to where the Airbenders could be hidden, because that's what the Dai Li did in the original Avatar series. So that was really cool. They showed some scenes, or they showed some locations that they showed in the original series. They were of course just filled with water. They showed the main sort of hallway area, I guess, and they showed the area with chains in the sky. And I believe, if I remember right, that's where Jet died at. And so as soon as I saw that, I just thought of Jet, and I'm pretty sure that is the location where he sacrificed himself so that the team could escape. But it was cool that they gave that little reference because they of course didn't have to, but it was like we can just throw out Lake Lao Guy because that's the reference people are gonna get if they remember the name from the series. So that was really cool. We got to see Jinora kind of do her spirit thing, and I love the scene when she mentioned that, and Tenzin was just like, you can still do that. He was just like blown away by that, but that was funny. It was cool that she could do that. Also, that led to another funny moment when Korra mentioned how Jinora and Kai had a connection, and Tenzin was just standing there like, what do you mean by connection? I thought that was funny, but they really glanced over that. They didn't have any silly awkward moments outside of that. But that was cool. And then when Kai actually got the kiss and the really big smile he had, I thought that was funny. But that was definitely a cool episode. Kai airbending, we got to see that the main villain of the leader team, he isn't the only new airbender who can actually use his abilities. Kai is actually really, really good. I love the little fight scene they had too. That was really cool because they were in like a really tight knit space, so it was like 3 versus 3. That was really cool to see with the three Earthbenders coming in. They were just the way they were moving around, where they would like slide to dodge a block, and then they would throw a kick, and it would take out another chunk of the wall, but it would of course be close to the enemies. But that was really cool. We got to see some real up close fire bending. We got to see with the two separate teams. That was, of course, Mako and Bolin and Jinora. And then we got team, I guess, smaller team Avatar. They were fighting with the Airbenders, and they got surrounded by the Dai Li. That was pretty cool. But overall, I loved that episode. We find out that the Earth Queen, well, we kind of know that she's in on it, but she reveals herself. She's basically going to go to war with the Avatar now, so I don't know how that's going to come into play in the season, but I don't think she's going to take that too kindly. Like, she's not going to let that slide for too long, and I think once she finds out where the Avatar is, she'll probably just go crazy and attack, but that I don't know what her idea is. Like, she just wants to have this army for protection, but really, I always thought the Dai Li were incredibly powerful people because they have like the earthbending gloves and stuff. They can shoot them off like bullets. They're like levitating hands almost because they can just toss them to grab people and lock them up. They did it with Janora in the episode when they grabbed her wrist and the guy pulled her towards them. They've always had those abilities. They're really good earthbenders, and there's like tons of them. They come out of nowhere. So it was just interesting. Like, she just wants this army for extra protection, and I don't know what she thinks the Raiders. I don't know. Maybe that's what she thinks. Like, Raiders are just gonna somehow get out of the lower ring to the inner ring or whatever. But she's kind of gonna go to war with the Avatar at some point in this season, and it might not be this season. She might have to build up more of an army or something. But I don't know. I feel like she's gonna have to come back at some point. But that was definitely a cool episode. Great fights. We get all the new Airbenders coming in, and then we get our next episode where a lot of those Airbenders are actually training and stuff. So they're with the kids and Kaya, and then Team Avatar is off. They kind of branched off, so no one knows where they are. They're going to just find new Airbenders, and this was in the last episode. Of course, Lin went to find them, and so she's with Team Avatar now, and they're all finding Airbenders, and they end up finding one in Metal City, which when they showed it, it looked really amazing. It made me think of The Wizard of Oz. It was like the Emerald City, but it was just made of metal because it was just really tall, amazing buildings, especially the one in the center. It was clearly made as a centerpiece, and then they had, it was almost like a giant metal flower around it, and then they had the little, I guess, sort of subsections. They didn't really go into the architecture of the city. They said architecture quite a bit, but they didn't really talk about it. But it looked really cool, and of course we get Lin, and as soon as they mentioned that it was Metal City, and she made that face, it's like, okay, she knows people there. It was very obvious, and we find out in this episode that it's her sister, her half sister at least, because she specifies that. But I knew that ahead of time because I watched a video when this episode leaked out, so I found out the stuff about Toph and Lin having a sister, and we don't really know if Toph is alive. I mean, they don't say that she just died and someone found her, so I feel like she is alive, so that's pretty cool. And I always thought that kind of sucked when they first announced, like, people would be dead, of course, because it's years later, decades later, and it always kind of sucked to me that Toph was dead, not because she's my favorite, but it was like she was the youngest person, and it's like, I'm pretty sure Zuko is the oldest person, even in the original series. He was like 17 or something. I can't really remember. I could be wrong about that. But it was like Aang and everybody else was 12. Toph was like maybe 10, I guess. And then Zuko, I thought he was like 17 or something. I think he was 17. So he was older than them by like 5 years, which isn't much. But it was just like he was the oldest person. And it just seemed kind of weird, like he was the one who lived out of everybody. But it's cool to know that we officially have two people alive. Toph could possibly still be living, so most of the old Team Avatar is out there. She's just wandering the world, which ironically is the story they gave for Zuko before he was officially in the series. They said he was the one who was wandering around the Earth, but in this episode they say it's Toph, so I think they kind of switched it around on us. But hopefully she comes into the series at some point. I'd love to see her come in this season, but that probably won't happen. It would be too big of a moment just to toss her in there unless she came in during the big fight at the end of the season, which would also kind of just be like, here's Toph at the end of the season, which would also kind of suck. But it was a great episode. It was a very emotional episode. It wasn't too emotional. Like, it wasn't really sad or anything. It was just like Lynn's super pissed all the time, and her sister is just like living the family life, but she's also living the super rich person life. So she's super rich, and she also has the amazing family. She has 5 kids, the 2 sons who made up the sport, the one daughter who's become an airbender, her oldest son is working with her husband who's an architect, and her oldest son is an engineer. Her other son, who is just Skrillex in earthbending gear, he's an artist and stuff. She's just living like the best of both worlds, and it was really interesting to see that difference. And we get information on Toph how neither of the girls knew their father, and Toph was busy being a metal bender police chief. So and I love how they also mentioned the fact that with her growing up in the house she did during the original Avatar series, which we in that one episode we see how incredibly strict her parents are, where it's like she's an amazing earthbender and her dad's like, she's so amazing that means she's not being kept on tight of enough leash. And then he wants to keep her hidden even more than he had her already hidden. They didn't even, like, people in the city didn't even know that this girl existed. So when she had kids, she just let them run wild, and it sort of worked, but it sort of didn't. And it was just a really good episode. We also get love interest for Bolin, which, that was kind of cool. The girl's cute, and I don't know, Bolin kind of almost messed it up thinking that he had to act super cool. But I love the scene when she clearly showed interest and Korra noticed it and she smiled. Like, she looked at her and then looked at Bolin, and he was just like, and just looked up into space. And then Korra was just like, do you not see what's happening right now? I thought that was a funny scene because it was like his face was just like, oh, and he literally just looked up into space out of nowhere. But I love that scene, and so they're gonna be love interests. Hopefully that works out for him. I feel like they always throw relationships in, and then it's just like super dramatic crap happens, and then it just falls apart. So hopefully this just works, and there isn't all the extra drama. And I feel like they've gotten past that. I don't think there will be any drama or anything, but that was nice. And the ending of the episode was definitely very emotional. And Lynn is meeting her niece who she never met before, and she yells at her to get out, and we really don't get any information about why she's so upset. It's like you can tell it's partly the same reason her sister is kind of upset, is like they didn't really work out as a family, but she still pushes everyone away, but she's clearly hurt because the last scene is just her crying, and it was just a really good scene. But I'd love to see that work out for them in future episodes, and I'm sure it will, because they're going to be going up against people that are really powerful. They're just going to band together and get over stuff. But it was a great episode, and also the other side of that was amazing with the other airbenders. And the leader of the evil team sneaking into the airbender tribe trying to find the avatar. At first, as soon as he came in, I was like, this guy is evil, because he was like making the face when he was smiling, and they were like, oh, he's another airbender. I'm like, he's like super chiseled and buff and stuff. I'm like, this guy is like, he has like the smile but don't really say anything type of face. I'm like, he's too good looking to be a good guy. It's like he's all chiseled and crap. I'm like, something's up with this guy. He just comes in out of nowhere. He's like just dressed like a ninja almost, and he's just like all handsome and just buff and ripped type of guy randomly out of nowhere. And it's like, something's up with this guy. And then he goes through and he's doing all the airbending moves. He goes through, he becomes the leaf, which was funny. I love that reference to season 1. So he goes through that like a ninja. He literally was like spinning around, jumped through. I'm like, this guy is literally just like a ninja. What is he, like special ops or something? And then they end that scene, and when he's standing and they show his face, it just clicked. I was like, that's the guy. He was like coming in like somebody out of nowhere. He has the scars and stuff. And then I just looked at him, and it actually clicked. I was like, that's the evil guy. I thought that was a really cool scene, because if you didn't figure it out, it was cool when they actually reveal it. But I think as soon as he was like sneaking around, it was kind of obvious. But I figured that out during the second scene they showed him. I was like, oh, that's him. And that was a nice little thing. He like cut off his hair. And the thing that made it so weird is that he didn't just look younger. It was like he looked like he was like 30 years younger. He looked like he was like 22 or like maybe 25 or something, because he was just a big guy. But that guy looked like he was like 20 something. And then when he had all the hair, it wasn't just that he had long hair. He actually had like gray hair and stuff, and there was like the little streak. So he'd only be like, early 40s or something. But when he cut all his hair off, he literally just looked like he was 20 years old or something. And that's why it was such a cool change. But it was obvious they couldn't just like change his face, and then when they reveal it, like his face just changes in the animation. So I thought that was really cool that he just looked so incredibly different, and Kaya figured it out, and unfortunately she lost, and he stole the staff, which I thought was kind of cool. I initially was thinking it was Aang's, and it might have been. It was in Tenzin's study. It could have just been Tenzin's, but Also, it was orange, so I guess I'm trying to remember. I think they fixed it at the end of the original Avatar, so he had like his orange one back plus the little snack compartment thing. But I don't think that was his. But he stole the staff glider, so that was cool. Now he has that as a weapon because he was using it as a weapon too. So that'll be cool to see him come back and fight with that. And he obviously has skills with bow staves. Like he's not just an amazing fighter for some insane reason. He's also good with the bow staff. So he knows lots of different forms of martial arts. He knows how to use weapons and stuff. And now he's even more dangerous because he's an airbender. And also, and this was in the episode 4, we don't get any information. They interrogated them for apparently 13 years or something like that. No one still knows why they were after Korra when people initially found out that she was the next Avatar. So we still don't know. They're keeping that secret really close to the vest. We're gonna find out really soon. I hope it probably won't be till like the middle of the season, but these are definitely two great episodes. They're probably my favorite so far outside of the season premiere, and that's just because it was the season premiere. It was what's gonna happen in this season. But I think being in the season 4 or 5 episodes in now, I think these were my two favorites. I think Metal City or the Metal Clan episode probably was my favorite because it had the cool action with the infiltration. It was also kind of sneaky, which made it even cooler. But they had the cool fight scene at the end, and he escaped. But they also gave us a lot of info on Toph and what happened after the series with her, and more information on Lynn, who we don't really know anything about. So it was really cool, and hopefully, episode 6 will probably be really closely tied to episode 5 because they'll most likely be in Metal City still. And then we'll have to see with episode 7. But definitely enjoyed these 2 episodes. Of course, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought of them. Your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And what do you guys think is the real reason that Lynn is being so distant towards her family? I mean, we get kind of the basic lesson out of it, but like she was just, admittedly, she was really just rude to her niece who literally never met her, so there was no reason to kind of hate her or anything. She could have really ill feelings towards her sister, which would make sense, but like her niece and nephews, they don't know her. They never did anything to her, and she just like kicked her out. So what do you guys think is the real reason behind her sort of distancing herself from her family, even though they really just want to get to know her because they don't know her at all? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.